I got the energy. I got a will to survive.
It's Robinson. Minnesota delivers.
Got the energy. I know you feeling my drive. I got the energy. I got energy. Yeah.
Welcome in Chris Finch, the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. How we doing, Coach?
I'm good, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
A lot of people don't know this, but Chris Finch is actually on the staff of the Houston Rockets that drafted me way back in 2011. We were just talking about a story. Why don't you tell them what happened that day, Finch?
Yeah, no, it was early in the season. You weren't playing at all. And we had a game that night. And I remember we're sitting there having lunch. And you were asking me about the G League. And I was trying to keep you positive because you were about to be sent down the next day. I said, hey, it'll be good for you. Just go down and play. Embrace it. It'll be better to play rather than sit. And then I don't know why, but we threw you in the game that night. And you played really well. And you never went down to the G League. We never looked back. And you were very lucky that you had a head coach who absolutely adored you.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with my work ethic or my talent, right, Coach?
No, I think more of your kiss ass abilities.
Boy. Well, Coach, you guys are you're obviously off to a hot start. Last night you lost a tough game to one of the top teams in the East. What can you learn from a game like that?
I think I didn't like our physicality around Embiid. I thought we just kind of made things too easy around him. He's a phenomenal player, and he got into a rhythm. And we were in foul trouble anyway. So, if we're going to be in foul trouble, we might as well dictate physicality. And I thought we were on our heels when we were guarding him. But we still had chances to win that game. I thought, well, we're going to catch a rhythm here in the fourth. And then we couldn't get a timely bucket, and then, kind of got away from us. But got to bounce back tonight. We got the Lakers in town. They'll be coming in pretty desperate, and you know how it is in the league, Chandler. And Lou will, he knows, you guys know the desperate team usually wins in the NBA in a regular season. So we got to find our desperation tonight after the last night's disappointment.
Coach, you guys are 20-6 this season, best team in the West. Did you feel that type of start in you guys? Are you guys even exceeding your own expectations for your team going into the year?
Yeah, I don't think we could have predicted 20-6, but we did feel that we had the ability to be a really good team in the West. We put a lot of emphasis on a great preseason, and all credit to our guys. Like, even though we have some vets, nobody sat out in the preseason. We had a lot of things to figure out, develop our chemistry. We never really able to get there last year with a lot of injuries. Maturity was something we talked about, focus, creating identity through our defense. That was something we talked a lot about. And we felt if we could pull all this stuff together, we thought after 20 games, we're going to know if it's going to work or not this year. It wasn't going to take a long time. Last year we thought it would take us half the season or more. This year we figured if it was going to work, it was going to work early. And, fortunately for us, it has done. So now we just got to, maintain it and keep making some tweaks to what we do and learn as we go.
So in New Orleans, Denver, Toronto, you were known as an offensive coach, an offensive guru in a lot of ways. And now you're orchestrating one of the top defenses in the league. What has that been like for you going through the transition of first as an assistant being known as an offensive-minded guy, the guy that can coach that, now leading one of the top defenses in the league?
Yeah, I think, and I think sometimes we get labeled these things in the league, but I got a great defensive staff led by Elston Turner. It was one of the most significant hires that I made when we were putting our staff together, just because I needed somebody who had a lot of experience. And ET's been around the block and coached in a lot of different types of defenses. And the great thing I like about him is that he's always coached against guys who really like and value offense. So we don't have this like offense versus defense turf battle that some staffs will fall into where you're trying to protect your defense by not doing certain things offensively and vice versa. He's really kind of led the charge in it. But really, we got a lot of guys who like to play defense and who can play defense. And that's where it all starts. So we figure we have to lean into what we got, what we do best, and what could make us special.
Coach, Anthony Edwards said that by the end of the season, he will be one of the better players in the NBA. I think he's already there. I think he's one of the best two-way players in the NBA as well. You obviously agree with those comments by him?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Ant's still a young player on the rise, but his, it's consistency is what it's all about, Chandler, as you know. Like being, when I first got here, he played well 1 out of every 3 games. Then he grew it to 2 out of 3, and now he's really at 3 out of 3. I mean, he's playing at a high level every single night. We pretty much know what to expect. He's seeing a ton of different defensive looks. He's learned a lot, defensively off the ball. His awareness has gotten better and better, and on the ball when he locks in and takes the matchup, he can be special, really can be. And I say all that, and he's still learning. He's still learning a ton of stuff about, how to kind of manipulate the defense, how to like read the floor, and how to control the game when the ball's in his hands, rather than, just kind of go and get buckets, which he's really good at that. And what I love about him most is he likes the moment. He's not afraid of the big shot. He's had an incredible sense of timing on when to step up in games and kind of take control. Or he knows when his team needs a big play from him, whether it be offensively or defensively.
And excuse me. Ant also said he wants to be the first NBA player to play in the NFL after he wins his first title. One, do you think he can play in the NFL, and are you prepared to share him with the Vikings?
Well, Ant thinks he can do anything, and I'm sure you know Ant, being from down around Atlanta. You probably run into him. He certainly thinks he can do anything. Doesn't matter whether it's NFL or bowling. But I don't. I'm sure he could if he put his mind to it. He's that type of athlete. He's got the toughness, the skills. But we're not prepared to give him up right now.
We don't like contact like that, Coach. We're into it.
I know you don't like contact like that.
I don't even like taking charges, let alone getting tackled in the NFL. But look, obviously, Ant's also, he's going through a lot of stuff right now off the court. Has it been hard for him to ignore all that and just play basketball as such a young star in this league?
I mean, I think, as competitors and people who come to work every day, fortunate to do what we do, regardless of what's going on in life, it gives us an escape, an opportunity to go out and just kind of focus on what we love to do and be surrounded by people that are going to, support you in the right ways. So, as a young person, as a young player, we all have a lot of maturing to do, and we're here to help that in any way we can, whether it be on the floor or off.
Last year, Coach, Karl-Anthony Towns had a bit of an up and down year. Obviously, he had that injury, the calf injury that sidelined him a couple months. He missed time. Are you seeing something different in him? Seeing him, obviously, him and Anthony Edwards, their relationship, they've really embraced each other. Have you seen a different approach to him, a different start to him this season?
Yeah, you know what, Shams, like in many ways, he's kind of been the glue to all of this, because it's his willingness to kind of sacrifice just enough with whether it be spacing or touches or taking on, defensive assignments that traditionally hasn't been, guarding guys in actions or rotations, mostly been guarding and pick and roll in his whole life. And just kind of embracing all these things and kind of learning through it. And then staying patient and aggressive when he has his opportunities. Cat's an extremely efficient player. So, he can still do a lot of damage with less shots. But he's, last year I thought he deferred too much at times trying to make the thing work with Rudy. He lost his chemistry with Ant when he was out for those 50 games. We figured that would come back naturally. We told him, just don't worry so much about Rudy. Go be more aggressive for yourself. And the Rudy plays will happen in the flow because, trust your skill and your talent. He's playing pretty much like a 50, 40, 90 clip right now, which is incredible. And it just comes down to his patience and his poise and his willingness to kind of let the game happen for him and then take the moments that, as they come, rather than always trying to force himself into the game.
And he's called himself one of the best shooting bigs in the league. Actually said ever. Would you agree with that?
Well, he's one of the best shooters in the league. I mean, he with his size and range and ability to get it off pretty much at any point in time. He can make step backs over people. I want him to shoot more threes. I think at times as a team, we struggle to get our 3-point volume up just with the way we play. I'd like to see him take even more. But he's one of the best shooters in the league, and for sure, kind of as the bigs go, we're seeing more and more bigs being able to step out and stretch the floor. It's probably one of the biggest dynamics that is changing in the game right in front of our eyes, is these like incredibly skilled bigs. Like you see it last night, we were on the wrong end of it again, but these are the guys that are really changing the game.
Yeah, Finch, the trade to acquire Rudy Gobert was highly criticized in a league that was going small, like you just said, stretch 5, stretch 4s. You guys went with the double big that not everyone was doing. Is that something that you looked forward to? That's something that you thought would pan out sooner? What was your take on it? As the head coach, were you excited to have these two together?
Yeah, I was excited, Chandler. I think a couple things. One is, like, when you already have Karl Anthony Towns on your roster, at the time, you're not going to go small. Like, you're not taking a guy like him off the floor. Your small ball is not necessarily going to be better than, let's say, Golden State's small ball. And when you have a chance to add somebody like Rudy Gobert, who plugs a lot of the things that, plugs a lot of the holes that you had in your team, such as rebounding and defense and rim protection in particular, like, you got to do it. So we were all really, really excited about it. And we thought we could maybe zig in a league that was zagging. And, we thought last year it would take us 40 to 50 games to figure it out, find a rhythm, go through enough learning experiences to see what worked, what didn't work, and pare it all down. We never really got there because of the injury to Karl. So we kind of had to keep reinventing ourselves. We became like a spread pick and roll team around Rudy. And, we ended up having success in that we were able to salvage a season that looked lost and have a pretty good showing in the playoffs. From all that, we learned, though, when Cat did come back, enough that we could come into the offseason and make it work. And it's been the willingness of our players to make it work, and they really enjoy each other. And then everyone else had to kind of keep developing their chemistry with Rudy. When Mike Conley joined us, he was like a breath of fresh air. He kind of told us it took him a year to figure out how to play with Rudy when he was in Utah. And he was able to impart some of those lessons to our guys, but also just, put it all into perspective that said, this is going to take a little while. I mean, if you think about when LeBron went to Miami, it took them a year. These moves take a while for everybody to kind of find their new role, their new rhythm. And then, you still might be a piece or two away from really making some noise.
Yeah, sticking with Mike Conley, coach, 17-year vet, one of my favorite teammates I've ever had. He's kind of stabilized the team. How much of a breath of fresh air has he been?
Yeah, he's been everything, really, in terms of, like, his leadership. His leadership is, and Mike, he's a quiet guy. He's talking to the guys all the time individually. He's not a talk in front of the group guy. He's not a rah-rah guy. He certainly communicates with the coaches. But our young players, look up to him. Our veterans respond to him. He leads by example. He always does the right things. He almost never makes mistakes. And he stays on an even keel. And then he's played so well for us in clutch moments, which is where we really need him. We need him to kind of stabilize the ship, read the defense, get the ball to our best players, and play off that and make plays for himself too. So he's really been a big factor in our success. And I've always been an admirer. Every team I've ever played against him, he was just one of those guys. You just felt like you kind of couldn't stop. He was always kind of chipping away at the game, and then he hurt you when you didn't need. When it hurt the most, really.
In the past, you guys had somewhat of a tendency to maybe get rattled down the stretch of games, but now the resiliency that you guys have shown this season. I know you're the reigning coach of the month. Is there any adjustment you've made as a head coach? What have you seen that's really led to a change where now you guys are stable down the stretch of these games?
Yeah, it was a big point of emphasis coming into the season, Shams, in that we knew we'd be in a lot of close games. The West, in particular, is just so tough. That we had to be better at closing out games. Last year, our defense was really strong. It was our offense. It was our decision-making. It was mostly our shot selection. And a lot of that was Anthony. Like, we had to, work with him on showing him how to close games, not about just trying to make the big play. He's a home run hitter. He wants to hit a home run every time he steps to the plate. And then this year, he's done an incredible job of finding his teammates at the right moments for them to make shots too. So that's one. And then also just kind of just changing up, not always playing through Ant. We have Kyle Anderson, who's really good with the ball in his hand. Mike, we just talked about. And then, of course, there's always Cat. But, when you have a big, it's really hard to close games by throwing it to a big in the post because physicality goes up. They allow the wrestling a little bit more. And then, of course, you can double. So just kind of finding some concepts that, were a little bit more amenable in closing situations for Cat, too.
Finchie, you are credited a lot for the development of Joker. What did you see, early on from him, and did you think he would become, what he is today?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd say this about any coach player. I mean, these players, as you know, Chandler, put so much work in. It's the development is on them. It really is. Like, well, what we did when I got to Denver, and with Mike's blessing, and we just kind of changed the nature of the offense from more of a heavier play call offense to more of a free flowing one, and put him at the top of the floor and played through him early, and then kind of just got out of the way, and just allowed the people to move and cut off of him. What I saw in him early was just this guy is going to be the best passing big man ever to play the game. I mean, it was incredible every single day. We're just watching him up close. He's even gone on and exceeded expectations. I mean, it's just, it's just so much fun to watch. Unless you're playing against him, you feel absolutely helpless. But yeah, it was literally that. And then, he had a good group of guys around him that really kind of fit skill set wise. Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, these guys were really good cutters. And Fareed was working the baseline, and Gallo was able to play pick and roll with them, and just kind of a lot of things that just kind of developed as we let them, because we just kind of gave them the breathing room to kind of find these things in the game by themselves. And that's where I thought he really shined.
And you also coached Zion your last season as an assistant in New Orleans,
Yeah.
and that being his rookie year. What did you see in Zion? What stood out to him early on to you?
Yeah, I mean, this kid's going to be special. I just thought, he got hurt at the end of preseason, which was unfortunate. But in the preseason, just, nothing rattled him. He looked like he'd been in the league for a long time, goes where he goes. Like a cat, he'd jump in the air in practice. He'd take contact. You'd think he was going to land on his back, and he'd somehow always come down on his feet. Just incredible athlete with a great touch, real magnanimous personality. His teammates were drawn to him. That was the bubble year. That was kind of a crazy year all the way around. But when he had come back healthy after about 40 games, we were on a run heading into the second half of the season. I thought for sure we'd be in the playoffs. But yeah, just a super special talent and a really, really enjoyable person.
Coach, everyone says that about Zion too, how he's a breath of fresh air. Everyone loves him. Why does he have this bad rep now, or why is this media, give him this image all of a sudden?
I mean, I can't speak to what's actually going on there right now, Chandler. It's not for me to say, but I find it hard to believe that he's any different as a person than he's always been. He's a lot like Anthony here, just comes to work every day, smile on his face. I think, any disappointment stems from, just his availability. And that's kind of what it's always been about. But I still, when I see him today, he's still got the same laugh and smile that he always has. And that was the best part about him.
Finch, my last question for you. I see here that your mother danced with the Rockettes.
Yes, she did.
Is that how you got your competitive edge and drive?
Yeah, that's where all my athleticism comes from. I was just as athletic as you. So.
I love it. Coach, thank you so much. I miss you, man. Continue to do what you do.
I appreciate it, guys.